Shree's on the beat.
Welcome to another edition of Real Talk, Straight Talk. It's so good to be back because we've had the summer off. I cried to the staff, I cried, and they didn't want to do it, but I cried, and so they grudgingly gave me the summer off, so now we're back. Got to send a big shout out to some of our sponsors, Angel from the Fix Hair Salon, putting the guys up at Up Like 7 Barbershop, the Congress of Black Women, Natalie from Royal Bank. I'm going to go out of town to Rhythm Movements Community Association from Ottawa, and then come back to Hamilton with Soul Kitchen Radio. Coming back to London again, I'm going to talk about Kevin and all the people over at Pride, and of course Paranite Bar and Grill. I did, you know what? And I saved the best for last. Of course, we're here at the W.E.A.N Community Centre, and so big shouts to Pastor Thomas, who's a great supporter of the show. Today, we're so fortunate to end our summer vacation and with the London Police Services. We've had Deputy Chief Betts on the show before, and you brought a guest.
I did.
And can you introduce our guest for me?
My guest is Heather Knight, Constable with London Police Service. So pleased to bring her.
Oh, and we are so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And I know Pastor Thomas is going to ask you a few things, and I'll try to ask you a few things, and I don't know if there are things that Deputy Chief has never asked you and wants to ask you on the show, but you know, it could be.
Hold on to your seat, Heather.
That's right.
Hold on.
But before we do that, we like to talk about and feature community events. Coming up on October 22nd, and I made this mistake when I first put the flyer on, so I got to apologize to Liz Acano. It is the Educate the Children Nonprofit Association. Yeah. They're holding an event at the Fred Morrell Hall that's located in St. Justin's Church.
On Jalna Road.
On Jalna Road. That's going to be October 22nd. It's their annual fundraiser. For those of you that don't know, they do a bunch of projects, school building projects in Nigeria. So after 2 years, of course, you know, the COVID and all that stuff, they finally get to host an in-person live event. I know I'll be there. I'm going to invite everybody here to be there. I actually promised them that I will deliver Deputy Chief. I don't know why, but
you're delivering him. Good enough.
Okay.
It's on the hot seat, not me.
I said, of course we're going to get there. Well, I didn't really say that. I said I'm going to ask politely and nicely and see if he's available. But because you know how I am, I like to embellish things a little bit when I'm on the show. So.
And I've never said no yet.
Oh, Great, so he's going to be there, so I'm encouraging everybody to remember October 22nd. It's a Saturday. It starts at 6 p.m. Tickets are available on Eventbrite, and it's for Educate the Children, courtesy of Miss Liz Acano and her group. Now, we get back to, this is the first show, by the way, in September.
Okay.
This is our very first. And I think we almost ended with the police the last time because we were doing
When we did Community Connect, yes.
Yeah, but I also had Sergeant Pierre, and we did the community groups.
Oh, right, I remember
we
that
did
one.
Community
Yes.
groups, and I think we ended. So we ended. Should we say we ended on a good note?
Yes, we did, and he's here tonight too, right?
Yeah, and I'm still here. No, I'm still here. So I'm gonna say we are starting back on a good note. Once again, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm gonna let Pastor Thomas start, and she's got a few things that she'd like to ask. And
Well, good evening. I'd like to thank you guys for coming again. This is a part of a program that I started last year, and it's called Community Connect. It's very important for us to community to connect with one another. And I've had the London Police Services on before. I think you were on twice before last
I was,
year.
yeah.
And it was a success. And we are here again today to making sure that the community knows about the police and police knows about community, because we need to work and connect together. It's very important. And so we're starting back with Real Talk, Straight Talk, and the first episode and the first season back for Community Connect at the Community Centre, and that is with the London Police Services once again. And so I want to thank you both for coming. And I'm going to ask Chief Deputy Stu if he can please just introduce himself for those that are just tuning in and going to be viewing it for their first time.
Sure. Well, thank you very much, Pastor. And I know, just, Colin, you did not have the summer off. I saw you at so many places this summer. You just weren't here, but you were everywhere else. And Pastor Thomas, you as well. So thank you so much. It's always my pleasure to be offered to come back and to be everywhere you are, quite frankly. It's enjoyable. So as you say, my name's Stu Betts. I'm Deputy Chief here at the London Police Service. I oversee operations. The last time I was here, I was on the administration side.
Yes.
Now I'm on the operations side. So that means I oversee things like the uniform patrol, the officers who are on the street, all the fun stuff about policing, the K-9 unit, the emergency response unit, the investigators, that sort of thing. But also importantly for me is our diversity unit falls under my area of operations.
Yeah.
And I'm really, as you know, very much interested and engaged with that. So I've been a member of policing now. I'm in my 25th year.
Oh, you look like you're 25.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
That's it. And I was a member of the York Regional Police prior to joining London Police.
That's right.
And we have a connection back to there as well,
I do.
you and I, so that's fantastic. I'm certainly happy to be here, and I'm appreciative. And I tell you, I'm just window dressing here because the star of the show today is Heather, so absolutely.
Well, I am going to talk to Constable Heather Knight, and before I want to introduce you, I want to thank you for making an inroad for women of color. I don't know how many people thank you, but I am thanking you. I have a granddaughter who's 7 years old, and I'm hoping that they remember to let her view this so she can see herself through you, because she wants to be a police officer. And I want her to nurture that as she's growing. So I want to thank you for that. And I know it's hard work, but know that you're doing it for other women that are coming up. So I thank you. So I say that because one of the questions I have to ask before I let you speak, I'm going to ask you,
Sure.
How many police officers are on the force?
So we have just over 900, and I say just over because sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, depending on retirements and things of that nature. So,
Yes.
yeah. So that's total staff, civilians and sworn members.
Okay, thank you. Can't give me nice things. I have to be mean. Can't give me nice things, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
it's okay. And we know you just wanted the attention to come back.
I didn't, but I was wondering what was going on there, but sorry about that.
That's all right. So, yeah,
Yes.
so as I was saying, and actually 35% of our entire complement at the London Police Service are women.
Oh, wonderful.
So we're a little actually over the average in the province in terms of the number of women that are in our organization.
And that was going to be my other question, so which is wonderful. Now, out of those women, how many of them are black women?
Well, we have very few. So Heather is our, and this was a surprise to me, I will say, is our first black female officer. Now,
Can
Heather
I
did-
clap for a minute?
Absolutely. That's it. Now, Heather tells me, and she gave me a little bit of history on, we have had one biracial female officer, but Heather's our first black officer, our only black officer, and we need more. We need more women of color, and that's why Heather's here today and why I'm happy to have Heather here today. We do have some women who are civilian members,
Yes.
who are women of color,
Yes.
but in uniform,
Yes.
Heather's it. She is leading the way,
Yes.
and it's sometimes hard ground. And
Yes.
I know Heather would probably talk a little bit about that. So.
Yes. So let's give Heather the floor. Heather.
Hey.
Now we're putting her on the spotlights. No.
That was quite the introduction.
I promised we weren't going to do that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It wasn't his fault.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so my name's Heather Knight. I am not from London. I moved to London in 2013 and joined the London Police Service in 2016. Prior to joining the London Police Service, I worked in HR and I also ran a couple of dental offices. So my work experience is kind of all over the place. I was actually a dental assistant at one point. When I came out of school, I was a dental assistant.
Oh, awesome.
So I've been working for a while. I've been working for almost 20 years before I became a police officer. So I didn't come in as a typical 20-something. I was in my late 30s when I joined.
Oh, wow.
And I live in London with my son, 7-year-old son.
Yes, I saw him. Yes.
Who is here with me, and he's playing his Nintendo Switch, and that's kind of what he does.
Yes.
I have worked on the street in uniform patrol, and I've also worked in recruiting, and I did a short stint. I'm actually kind of assigned to community services right now, but I have a back injury, so I'm working in HR right now.
Okay, wonderful. Question I have for you. Why did you choose this path? Because you were on a different path.
So I was on a different path, but I always wanted to be a police officer.
Awesome.
So from the time I was my son's age, I wanted to be a police officer, which is something I might as well go there now, is my parents were like, no, you're not doing that. No, you need to go to school. You need to get an education. You need to get, have a career, be a lawyer. If you want to do law, be a lawyer, but definitely not a police officer.
Yeah.
So that was shot down from a very young age, and so I didn't pursue it, which is something that I find a lot of people tell me when I talk to them about policing, especially women of color.
Yeah.
Parents are not quite on board with that. So,
So the other question I have for you, as you say that, what can we do to change that?
well, I think it's a cultural thing. So,
Absolutely.
in general, policing is not something that, and this is my opinion, but in general, policing is not something that parents of color want their children to go into.
Absolutely.
And definitely not their daughters. They're not going to encourage their daughters to become a police officer. It's just not going to happen. So I find that it's about educating. So you got to educate the parents on the opportunities, because when people see policing, and especially people that don't have a knowledge about policing, all they see is the uniformed officer. They don't see all the jobs that are behind the curtain. They don't see the administrative jobs. They don't see the opportunities in recruiting, in diversity, in major crime. They don't see all those things, and they don't realize that there is an opportunity for their children to go into something and stay in the same field but move up and move around and have multiple jobs. So I've had 4 careers, and if I had become a police officer at 21 when I finished school, I would have been working as a police officer in many different fields without having to jump careers. I just would have been a police officer.
I like what you said about the education piece, to educate the parents. So I would love for you to come back, and we can do where we bring parents in, make them have phone calls if they want to have phone calls, and do that education piece, because that's all about community connect, right? Is bringing that education piece and tearing down those barriers, right? A lot of times what happens, it's the fear because of the unknown, what's going to happen. And in our families, the daughters are more covered than the sons. And so when they think about policing, a gun, fire, no, right? And I think that's what's in the minds. What about you? You're a father.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to touch a little bit on your parents' background. What's your parents' background?
So my dad is Bajan and my mom is Jamaican.
Okay. And I remember one of the things we talked about was the climate in which your parents came from, or which your parents of the community, where they come from, whether it's Africa, whether it's the Caribbean. Depending on your, like I said, on your place, there's always been a mistrust of police. So if you look at how police is viewed in your parents' home country, that'll tell you why when they come to Canada, they don't see it as, okay, I'm in Canada, I'm in a Western environment, there's going to be
A different mentality.
They still hold the same mentality as, okay, at home, we don't talk to the police. In some instances, we're scared of the police, so it still holds, right? And that's why, you know, we have parents that don't exactly look at their kids getting into policing. I remember, I think my mom was pretty good, right? Because my father died before I was born, so I didn't know him. But my mom was pretty good. But in the neighborhood, I remember people wanted their kids to be like you said, lawyers,
doctors.
Those were the
professions,
the
professions,
right?
Yeah.
I'm fortunate my daughter is a lawyer, but that's not because that's not because of me. That's not because of me in that sense. We didn't say this is what you had to be. I remember she started off in movies, and she didn't like it, and she then
Transition.
She transitioned. She chose law, but that wasn't, like I said, that wasn't on us. I've got this one right here, and I hope, you know, he listens. I'm like, yeah, maybe he'll be a police officer, right? So, but that's new. I think I find that to be new age thinking, because the mentality that my age group, it's still, let's keep them away from policing.
Yeah.
You know, we have to do too is a better job of recruiting families. Much to your point, right? And because we do have a lot of people who are interested, but parents or families are not so sure.
Yeah.
We have to do a better job of recruiting families. And really, because that's what we say, right? You're joining the policing family. Part of that it doesn't stop with the individual. We have to include mom and dad, brothers and sisters, sometimes grandparents. Right? We need to do a little bit more. So when you talk about how can we need to do that.
I like that piece, and I have actually 3 nephews that are joining the police force, but that's in Durham, and it's that kind of conversation to continue to have with them, right? He runs his miles, he does what he has to do I guess they got to be running a certain miles and get fitness. And he's out there doing his thing, and so I know he's listening now, so I'm just dropping that. So without saying his name, I'm dropping it. So he can't say I didn't mention him. But you know, Auntie Sandie, I'm going for this. So I'm letting people know. And so what it is that education piece. Because growing up, you wouldn't hear that. But they have somebody in their family that is teaching them something, and the youth are listening, right? And instead of, I always say, and my father used to say, instead of complaining, do something about it. And so we are echoing that, and it's trickling down to our next generation, right? And say, be that positive, be that positive role model that you think can be out there. So you go and you go do it. And so I think if we can start to have those much needed conversations within our families and tear down that barrier. And one of the questions I wanted to ask was the fatality rate, because this is one of the things that you say grandparents, that's what they're afraid of, that no, they think they're going to die, right? And then when you take a look at it, it's not as high as what we think it is, right? And so giving them that piece as well, right? Nobody wants to think about it, but that's what grandparents come, because I know my parents, what they said, and that's what they think.
I think it's a piece too, like it's the whole knowledge of what's going on. Because I know, like I have conversations with my mom still, and we'll be talking about calls, and they're like, so did you go to that by yourself? no, you don't go to that by yourself. There's somebody else with you. But all they're thinking is you're out there by yourself. It's nighttime.
Danger.
It's danger, right?
You're a woman.
You're a woman.
Yes.
Like, I know you can handle yourself, but you're still a woman, right? Right? So there's that piece of it, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
just understanding what the whole dynamic is.
Yes.
Because a lot of people, the knowledge of police comes from the news or from
Media,
from cop show, right? You're watching a TV show and you're watching Law and Order, and this is what you think, or you're watching SWAT. You think this is what happens all the time, right?
Yeah. I was going to say that because I watch SWAT. Sorry. Well, you know who's the head of SWAT, so you have to.
I don't want to.
No.
That's for another episode.
Ooh.
Right? Ooh. Yeah. So anyways, the two men are sitting there like, what's going on?
I just let you be there, have your conversation, that's it.
The other women viewing, they understand what we're
Right.
talking
Yeah,
about,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's all right. But you're absolutely right. We have to have those kind of conversations. We have to change the lens and how we're seeing policing. Did you want anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, I mean, we talk about the serious side of policing, as you say, the fatalities.
Yeah.
And I know I speak about this following tragedy just yesterday in the city of Mississauga with Constable Andrew Hong. That aside, that is a very rare instance in Canada.
Yeah.
It really
It
is.
is.
And you know, that's really owing to a whole lot of things. Number one, our community.
Yeah.
Right? Number two, we get a lot of great training. So for moms, dads, we train people really well. We equip them really well.
Yeah.
And probably the best thing that any officer can bring to any single call is nothing that's on their belt. It's this. If you can talk,
Yeah.
and you can talk to somebody with respect, and you can use these and listen to them with equal amounts of respect, you can get so much farther.
He's
And
right.
really, that's what the community wants. And we can diffuse so many things that way.
Absolutely. I like what you said because, but what I always like to say, oh, someone's calling in?
No, that's me thinking somebody and clicking.
It's always better you have two ears and you have one mouth. So it's better to always listen than it is to speak. Because when you hear, you can hear, you're really listening to someone, you're hearing what they're saying, and then you're able to help more. So I really thank you for that. Did you want to call him in?
We're going to talk to Sergeant Pierre in a minute.
Okay.
But before we get to Sergeant Pierre, because he's a guest. People, we have a guest in the studio. He's not actually supposed to be on, but he's here. So we've got a chair here. I don't know if we have a mic. But actually, he's like, please don't put me on today. The chief is here. I don't want him to think that I'm taking away from him. So. Yeah, we're gonna leave you.
I have all the time for Sergeant Pierre.
Okay. One of the things I wanted to ask was in terms of budget and diversity. How much of your budget is put towards diversity training, anything to do with diversity?
So we do diversity training, bias-free training. It's part of our curriculum every year.
Yeah.
As you will know. We have officers in our diversity unit. We actually increased the size of our diversity unit this year to add an additional person. We've dedicated a specific one individual officer whose his sole job is to investigate hate crime, regardless of who the victims might be. As you talked about Sergeant Pierre, who's lurking in the background, who will show up if I have to order him. He will be here. And Al's sole job is about community outreach through our Human Resources Office for recruiting and mentoring people from diverse communities. That's a unique position, and that's Al's job. And Al knows we champion that for him because it was incredibly important. If we're going to reach out, we need people to know that they can trust somebody, they can talk to somebody. Heather's a great ambassador. I can't tell you how happy I was the first time I met you, and Heather was probably one of our only HR trained police officers who was working, of all things, in our HR department. It was fantastic, right?
She's in the right place.
And you know what? That's so important because we recruit people who have such great backgrounds, but rarely can we place them in an area where they can excel and make use of the education and the experience they've gathered. And That was a great opportunity for Heather, I think, and it worked well for us. So, and I know people still are excited to have you in there. So, yeah.
I do miss the street, though.
What do
because
you
when-
miss of it?
Well, first of all, when you worked in an office for like 20 years,
Yes.
Right?
the freedom of
Right?
being out on the street, like,
Right?
there's a freeness about it, right? And although you do have calls that you go to and that you're directed to, you also kind of have a little bit of like, I'm going to this call, I'm going to that call. And then you can work with people, or you can work on a call by yourself. Like, there's just a little bit more of an independence and a flow, an easier flow of being
More
out on
flexible.
the road. It's flexible.
Flexibility.
And being on the road, I've had some interesting experiences. I've had people literally in live traffic get out of their car and be like, I didn't even know there was a black female officer in London.
But isn't that beautiful though?
And I'm like, we're in life. Like, you can't.
You can't do that. You can't do that. But thank you for telling me this. But yeah, you can't do that. It's beautiful that they're telling you, but get back in your car. Safety first. I love it.
But that has happened on like many occasions, numerous occasions. People have stopped me.
Yeah, because they don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I wanted to. I am very proud of you. Of taking this and being courageous to do this. And I want you to continue doing that, and others will come.
Well, I think the other thing, when we go back to like what can we do to get females and families engaged and wanting to do this,
Yes.
it's about having people in the right places and also having the right role models. So when you look around, even at big services like Toronto, how many females are up at the top? Right?
She says a good point.
So you don't have people that you say, okay, I want to be like her.
Because you can't see them.
You can't see it.
Can't see them.
So you don't see yourself in the organization. You don't
No.
see where you fit in. You don't see
Yeah.
yourself as the canine officer. You don't see yourself as the chief of police because you haven't seen it before, right?
You know, we were
So-
talking about SWAT, and they on their canine force, they had a female officer that was like, I like that.
There we go with SWAT. But I like the point you made about visibility, because that's one of the things that, as a community center, we're trying to be visible and show visible role models. Because when you're in a city such as London, and we know, like I said, there's only about 3 or 4 cities in Canada where it has that kind of proportional representation of us, right? But everything else is so minor, right? And it's so important for the youth going forward. When you don't see who you should be seeing, then you tend to see what you shouldn't be seeing. Right?
And you feel devalued as a person because you just don't see yourself in those spaces,
Right.
right? So,
And I think that's one of the biggest things this community center brings, is the fact that you can come here, and if you look around, as you can see there, here we are in the library, it's books by black authors. We have programs, and we try to bring black professionals to teach these programs, so they get to see what they're not seeing on a regular basis. Because as a black person, when you walk in London, how often you're gonna, how many times do you see us? Yes, you see us. You might, but in certain professions, and you don't know, and so we need to bring that awareness. So I like the fact that you talked about the awareness and the visibility.
so we got to get her to do some seminars
Oh,
and bring some of the children. I shouldn't say children, the youth.
But I think that's a visibility thing. And I may be wrong, because I haven't lived here all my life. But I find in London, there is, in the black community, I feel like we're in pockets and we like hide. Like, you don't see the black community in in most professions. You don't see them front and center. You don't see them showcasing. And I might be wrong, but this is just what I've seen. Like,
No.
That's why we talk about.
And that's why
the
we're trying to
small-
change it.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's a part of a small town Canada. I think it's not just London, and I think I'm going to let you in. on
I was going to say, that was one of the resolutions of the Black Love Gala,
Yes, it was.
right?
Yes, it
About
was.
increasing an allyship within the black community
Yes.
for the black community.
Yeah.
Which was a surprise and a bit of a revelation for me to be part of that and hear that.
Yeah.
But you've hit on exactly one of the resolutions from the gala.
Yeah, because we find ourselves siloed, like we're in different places. What can we do to bring ourselves out? And it is doing more programs, doing more get-togethers, more gatherings. This weekend was the London Black History Coordinating Committee's barbecue. People came out. It was wonderful, right? And we need to foster and do more things like that a couple of weeks ago, I think a month ago or so, we were in the Black business, I think they did at Covent Garden Market, and a lot of the Black businesses
Yes,
came out.
yes. There was the first thing, I think it was the multicultural weekend,
Yeah.
the festival that they had.
Yes.
And then 2 weeks ago there was Manifest.
Yes.
Manifest was, I forget her name.
Is it Camille?
No, Anye.
Oh.
Big shouts to Anye.
Yes.
And she approached it from a musical standpoint, so there was a lot of different African musics DJs there. But at the same time, she had Latin DJs. She had I think it was eight DJs representing the South Asian community. Community as well. So as much as she wanted to showcase her culture, and she's from Nigeria, and she wanted to showcase all the African cultures, she made sure that she incorporated other genres of music. And
That's
other
inclusivity.
styles.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Caribbean DJs. She
Yep.
had some Caribbean artists as well. She had hip hop artists. She had singers. It was just nice, and that was, like I said, 2 weeks ago at Covenant Garden Market. And it's great to see that, because over the years there's been a few festivals of that nature, but they never seem to literally capture what's needed. So they tend to, after a few years,
Fizzle out.
Yeah, fizzle out.
So it just goes to the point where we need to, and that's what a lot of people in the community saying, that we need to come together. And so having more things to help us to come together, that's what the ideal thing is, right? So we can get out of these little pockets that we're in. It's almost like we're hiding and we're ducking out when we have to, and then we hide back in. But we have so much to offer, and we need to get out there so others in our community, or the community at large in London, can see what we have to offer.
And one of the things, I've actually been asked how come I've had the police on the show so many times.
Tell them it's Pastor T's problem.
No, but I think my answer has been that there needs to be equal representation. And by that, obviously, I'm talking about when there's something negative to be showcased about police, whether it's in London, whether it's anywhere, it quickly makes the light of day. It's quickly hits social media, it's broadcast, right?
Yes.
Police are there for a reason.
They're there to serve and protect.
Right, and that's supposed to be the mandate.
Yes, supposed to be.
Now, like everything else, there's going to be good, there's going to be bad. But then, because of the position that they're in, any negativity really truly comes to light, and it stays in the light, and then it's amplified. So with that being said, I said, you know what? Let's see where they stand, right? And you were so, you started Community Connect, and that was one of the first things, and it was great. And we did, what did we do? 2 weeks, 2 episodes?
We did 2 weeks in a row.
We did 2 weeks in a row.
Absolutely.
So I have another question to ask, but Ozzy's not here, so hopefully Chief can answer my question. Remember when you guys went out and played basketball and they got that response? Has that happened yet again for this year?
So we actually did.
Sometimes some social gathering.
I can't say whether or not Ozzy has been
Yeah,
part of that, but we did actually have some officers caught on camera doing some really cool stuff, playing basketball in the street just about a week and a half ago.
Awesome.
Sent a message out, and to your point, I said this is also policing. It's not just about arresting people, it's also about community. And community service, community building is one of the 5 tenets, one of the main things that police are supposed to do in our community.
Awesome.
But it's often underrated, right? When things are tough, times are tough, and the community's hurting and suffering, and like we're seeing now, people forget that is so critically important. If we're going to get out of that, we need to build and continue to build that relationship. So.
Thank you for that, and thank you for those officers that do that. A step going beyond what they have to do, and just connecting, because it's important, right, for them to see, because it makes you guys' job a lot easier.
It
And
humanizes you.
Humanizes.
Yeah.
It's exactly what Heather said, right? We all joined policing to be on the street and to be part of the community and out in the community. We wanted to do those things and connect. So I can absolutely see why you sometimes miss the street. Absolutely.
Especially when they're playing ball and stuff, right?
That's it.
But that's wonderful. being born and raised in Toronto, you've seen things differently, right? And I have a 30-year-old daughter and I have an 18-year-old son, and I'm seeing the generation gaps in how we all view police. And so, and I know you can't go back, but you can get better. And so that's just my goal in doing this Connect, is to get community police better, right? So I remember just walking on the street. I always talk about this. I want to continue saying that. And I would say hi. I can say hi, you know, and you, hi. You just in awe. That's a police officer. Oh my gosh, right? Yeah. And that's what it's supposed to be like, right? And you're there to serve and protect. As Colin says, there's good and bad. There's everything in life. You have that. But if we have a majority that we can connect, it does create for a safer community. And then the police are able to do the job that they need to do when time comes for them to do those hard calls and make those hard, because you have community behind you, right? So I just want to say that, and thank you guys both for coming on. Colin, oh, is it?
I wanted to, yeah, you and this mic. I don't know why you're having so much trouble with the mic. So I'm gonna try to get you to.
Hello.
Yeah, it's there, but you was. I'm looking at. No, it's so low on you. So I'm gonna. You and this, you're having.
Like your necklace, or?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right, let me see if we got you, because.
Did you guys not hear all that I said just now? Do you want me to read? I don't know what I said.
No, I just
can't
just
repeat.
I just want you to.
This is live.
Yeah.
This is why I don't have my own talk show. They would only make like 3 episodes, and I'm like, that's it.
Well, while we're doing these kudos, can I also say thank you to you for being part of the Police Services Board's Anti-Racism Advisory Panel. I think that's really important, and we need that. And I'm glad that we have a panel like that, a panel of community members such as yourself who will contribute. Heather's a part of that panel as well. I'm a part of that, hence our connections, and it's important.
Yes,
so
it
thank
is.
you for being part of that.
Thank you for letting me be part and listening to me, because I remember in that conversation, it's like he saw something on my face and says, I think Pastor Thomas has something to say. And here we are with this, right? And so it's always when you're in those type of boards and panels, you want to do something, and I'm an action person. You can sit and talk for a minute, then let's
do something.
If you recall, we said, we have something very much, I said, I need to get out into the community.
Yes.
How can you help me? And you said, it just so happens.
Yeah. And
here we are.
Yes. It was awesome. It was awesome. We forgot about everybody else that was on the screen, and we just focused on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you.
And with you saying that's one of your things that you wanted to get out in the community, do you think you've made more of a change than in previous years with the police department? Because I remember going back a few years ago where there wasn't
Making a good point.
Yeah, there wasn't that sense that the police were willing to get out, even though they you know what, they've always had basketball, right? Because I remember Ephraim was playing. I remember there was a police band at one time, and the police services also handed out scholarships through.
I remember you were telling me that a couple years back.
Through the Congress of Black Women.
Yeah.
Now, even though those things were going on, it still wasn't viewed that the police department or London Police Services were part of the community, right?
So those were very structured events, and they still happen, and they're very important, and they still carry on today. We have a great Yippee program that just wrapped up. In fact, some of our class valedictorian, if you will, though it was a summer job, was a woman of color, and she said, you know what, this changed my entire impression of police officers. She said, because when they come into my community, it's only there for a bad reason, and I never see them, and I have a whole different perspective on policing now. That's a great feedback.
Yeah.
So much to Colin's point. It really is about us getting outside of those other sort of traditional, very structured venues, and getting to community events, being seen as a human, being out there. Those barbecues, the Black History, the coordinating community on Sunday, so important for us to go to.
Absolutely.
And to your point, Colin, I do see a lot of that now when I go to places. People say, "I knew you would come," right? And Sandie, you know, you ask, I show up.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad to be a part of that because I do think those are where we build relationships.
Absolutely.
Right? It doesn't have to be a formal, structured environment.
Yeah.
If we can share a meal together, and I'm always good for a meal. If we can share a meal together, we're gonna build relationships.
That's what it's all about. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's community, right?
That's 100%.
That's community.
I just want to make a recruiting plug.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Thank you.
Plug away, plug away.
All right.
So the other thing that I've noticed is a lot of people, people of color that are wanting to get into policing, don't know how. They don't know the steps, right? You want to be a lawyer, you know, I go to university, I take this course, I get my degree, like everybody knows that. But people don't know necessarily how to get into the police service, whether it be to be a SWORD member or to be a civilian member. So I encourage people to really reach out. Like, go on our website. Sergeant Pierre is a great resource.
Where is he?
He's around the corner.
Hiding.
Not for long, right? We're gonna bring him
we're gonna
out
bring
here.
him out. Yeah, Sergeant Pierre, go ahead after you finish.
But he's a great resource, and there are other people that are willing to like sit down and talk to people. I've spoken to people. I've helped them like get their application, see what they need, help them with their volunteerism. Like, people just don't know what they need,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And they don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And they just need somebody to talk to and help them and coach them. And if you've never had anybody in your family that's been a police officer, then you have no idea what you're doing, right? Like, you're
right.
shooting in the dark, right?
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Yeah.
I know that they're doing something new, also fitness testing, and it's on, I think it's up on our website. I think it went live today. Did it go live today? Yeah.
So they have to run so many miles.
Yes, but there's practice. So usually what happens is you don't do the fitness testing with us until your application's in, it's been reviewed, and then you get invited. What we're doing now, we're starting something new,
Yes.
where you can come in and try the fitness testing. So you can see where you see where you need to work on and see if you're ready to apply.
So a friendly face. He's making his way here
Oh,
now.
come on, let's
Come on in
go,
here, Alcindor.
let's
We've been
go.
talking
We've been-
about you. All right. So, no, you're not there yet. You're not there
Can
yet.
see-
Get up
can-
in here.
can we see him
Come
in
right here
this
for
chair?
now. Come on in here. Sure,
we-
right
yeah.
here for now.
Okay.
This is Alcindor, Sergeant Pierre, as you just heard Heather talk about. He can really walk people through that. I know
Right,
Heather's
that's-
been part of that, so.
I think I gotta hand over my mic to.
Oh, I can hand him mine. Oh, sorry.
I can speak loud enough.
Oh, you
can speak.
You think so?
I think so.
Okay, so lean into. Yeah, see.
That's
lean then you would have to
Lean
be
on
just a
him.
little-
That's right. There we go.
Okay.
Speak into the microphone.
Speak into the microphone.
That's it.
How long have you been and I know we've asked this before, how long have you been a police officer?
27 years.
Here in London?
Ontario?
Yes, in London.
In London?
Yes.
27 years?
What would you do before that?
Military police with at CFB Kingston for 6 years.
Military police?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Then I gotta,
And he still had a smile on his face.
Colin, you got a question?
yes, because with the military police, how many black military police officers did you see or work with whilst you were there?
None.
You were the only one.
That was the reason why I joined the London Police, to be part of a community where I could be with other diverse members and feel that I'm contributing.
Yeah.
Contributing to something greater than just being in the military and enjoying it, basically.
So, military police. I've never heard of that.
Not. Yeah. You never watch the shows? They've got military police. Oh, you're too busy watching SWAT. People, this is the only time I'm going to get away with saying anything that's remotely anything at the pastor, because the pastor's also my boss too. So you can see how I might love these moments. I might need the police department to save me once the show is over, but that's all right.
I know where he lives. But tell me, like, what the military police? People might want to know military police. We know military,
Yeah.
right?
Same thing, crimes on.
Basically, well, it's.
Is it on the
I would say
military base?
typically, yes, on the base. That's what you're responsible for.
Okay.
So anything to do with the members or anyone coming on the base,
Yeah.
their behavior and so on.
Oh, okay.
It's really limited to bases.
And that's another community.
Yes,
Because the
almost,
community for
yeah.
there. Okay, very interesting.
One question for the both of you, and because you know you came to London, became a police officer, right? And the same thing with yourself. Changes that you've seen since you've been a police officer
Here in London.
here, of course, yeah. So
Oh.
changes.
You want to see who's going to go first?
I thought she was thinking.
No, I'm going to say police services.
In the police service?
Yeah, let's start with the police services, and then let's talk about community.
So I'll talk from my little bubble.
Yes.
So when I started, I was the only female of color at London Police Service, and that was sworn and civilian.
Okay.
For both?
Yes, for both.
Wow.
And that has changed now. I don't know how many we have on the civilian side, but on the sworn side, we have, I think we are up to 6.
Wow.
So we have 5 other females of color that have become sworn members since I came on.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That would be pretty much the same for me. When I came, there was 6 of us, and now there's, I believe, 17 black officers. But not only just black officers, but even other person of colors, like other diverse members, would probably add 80. So that's huge
That's good.
increase in that sense to representing and the efforts put behind it too. So
Yes.
And
Maybe.
since then, we've had an inspector since I
Yes,
started.
yeah.
So Inspector Price and 3 sergeants of color. Well, 3 black sergeants. How many is it? A person?
5 other,
People of color.
yeah.
When we say people of color, because I just want to make it clear to people that are watching, because black and then people of color are not the same. People of color are people that can be Indian, that can be Latino, anyone outside of being black is called people of color.
Yeah, so we're talking about visible minorities.
Visible minorities.
Yes.
Visible minorities. That's the proper term.
proper
But because they're saying people of color, I just wanted to bring that
Yes.
Sure.
understanding, because I could see my aunt or my mother saying later on, what is people of color? Because they used to call black people
Person
color.
of color, yes.
Right,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
then,
yeah.
so I just want to make it clear. That's
Yes,
all.
and through the census, I think they go with 4 now.
Yes.
Black, indigenous,
Yes.
person of color, and
Yes.
Caucasian.
And Caucasian, yes. Yeah. So, yes.
Changes that you would like to see. Oh, is that going to put you on the spot with that video?
I'll let somebody
Say let somebody else.
I'll let somebody who outranks me.
Then we're all going to learn to write. Well, on my part, I think progress is being made. I guess sometimes you can't really speed progress to get it done right.
Takes time.
Yes. So that's one thing I realized. Other than that, maybe once, as the changes are coming in, maybe deeper implementations, like even within our ranks, and that growth, it's happening anyway. It's just like,
Takes time.
yeah, that's
It's a journey.
Yes.
It's a journey, right? And in while we're on that journey, we have these little wins like we do today,
Absolutely.
right? And we see the community growing, and you're seeing more women come on, right? And so hopefully by the time my granddaughter, who's 8, in the next 10 years, she can be saying she's going to go into the service, and I'll be like, yeah.
We get to ask you the same question because we can't leave you out.
Oh, no,
Well, I
not
wanna-
at all.
As you know, the first 2 times we were here, we talked about busting myths.
Yes.
And I think that's important.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Because I think that there is a perception, and that it's not an accurate perception, but I think there is a perception among some communities that if they see somebody of color,
Yes.
they assume that we've lowered a standard, lower a bar.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, that couldn't be further from the truth. And in fact, because I sit on, I can't tell you how many hiring panels I
Yeah,
sit on.
I believe you.
It doesn't matter who is there. They are always coming in with the same level of education, the same types of experience. And in fact, I would say that for our officers who are coming from diverse communities, quite often, their experiences are much different in that, because of how they've grown up.
Yeah.
Their experiences may be, maybe not traditional. I haven't played hockey all my life.
Right.
But maybe what I've had to do is work in mom and dad's store to help pay the bills.
Yeah.
And so my experiences are that, on top of getting education. So the
Yeah.
life or the lived experiences can be so much different. But I'll tell you, they are not less than.
No.
They are equal to or better than when we are hiring people from diverse communities. And there is a real misconception or a myth. And so I think it's important that we bust that myth because
I like that.
it is enduring.
Yeah.
And we do need to get rid of that from any sort of train of thought. Right? When we are hiring people, it is because they are the best people.
Yes.
Period.
I like
Would you,
that.
and you've been in recruiting, I think you would agree.
I would agree.
That's exactly it. But there is a perception.
There is a perception.
And that is so not fair.
Oh.
So I want to be here
Thank
right
you
now
to
to
say
tell
that.
you that that is not fair. Yeah.
And this is a place to do it.
I think another perception that hinders people is they think that that means that to be a police officer, they have to look a certain way. So they have to fit that mold.
That
I do
know,
not
yeah.
fit the mold. I don't know if anybody can actually see my hair.
But she's right.
But,
There,
right? Like,
when you say
don't
that, that's
have to
correct. yeah.
change who you are.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say maybe now, because I'm going to say that there was a time when, as a black
Yeah.
police officer, you
Yeah.
did have to fit that mold. Because when I was in Toronto, when I was in Mississauga, I had a friend that he was a guitarist and played in an R&B band. Joined the police force, and I remember we were at a club one night. The police came, and on leaving, he literally looked at me and said, "Don't do it. Don't say anything to him," because and he explained it to me after. Guarantee this is 28 years ago or something of that nature. But he literally said, don't, because the circumstances at that time was he didn't want to be associated with a place where they came in that aspect. And he told me this, and he told me stories. Told me stories of being a black police officer in Mississauga at that time. I remember I used to DJ for the, what's it called? Able? Is it? Yeah,
Able,
yeah, Able.
yeah.
Able.
Did you?
So I DJ'd for Able way back when they used to be at they used to use a hall at Victoria Park and Consumers Road.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is how far back. This is how long. Yeah, once again, we're going back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he
yeah.
looks like he's 28.
Yeah. So I DJ stuff for Able.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
The first black inspector for the OPP. Oh man, I can't even remember. I DJ'd his party as well too. Right.
I don't remember who it is though, right?
Oh.
That's
The
what,
J.
5 minutes.
I don't know either.
No, I'd have to look up. I want to say Jay,
Mm.
but he was the first black inspector of the OPP.
Oh, you can look it up and.
Sure.
Yeah, I can look it up.
Yeah.
And then I remember playing ball with the OPP basketball team because there was a guy by the name of Joe Alexander that ended up in the Niagara. Actually, he was an athlete, one of the first black kids to get scholarships in the States, because this is going back at a time when it wasn't really like it is now.
Yeah, yeah,
right? So
yeah.
I remember him being a sergeant at some point. He became a sergeant in the OPP, and but so I've been around.
Yeah,
certain,
you have,
Yeah, I've
yeah,
been
yeah.
around certain things, right? And I've seen the atmosphere. Right, the atmosphere was always different with the OPP than it was with other police departments. I remember comments being made that at some point they said they would faster be promoted in the OPP than they would be in certain departments. In fact, years ago they said the same thing about London. I remember people saying that they don't think they'd get promoted in London in the same way that they would get promoted by the OPP. And so when I ask you what you've seen change and how you've seen change, like I've been here for a while and I've talked to a lot of people, and so now one of the things when we had the first Community Connect, you said you came here, you talked about your background, you talked about your reading and all that stuff, and you said, okay, these are things that you wanted to implement. I can't talk about what was here before you, and I can't put you on the spot like that, but I'm sure.
He's done a lot since.
Sergeant Pierre's been here for a while. He can attest to certain things.
You know what I would say as well on that, though, is when you think about how much progress, and Heather kind of alluded to that, how much has been done in the last 10 years, right? So you think about the concentrated, focused effort and continuing effort, probably even more in the last 3 to 5 years. So that progress, that change, which will happen, is going to continue to happen, because as those officers continue to advance in their careers, they will naturally be able to attain those types of promotions and those positions of responsibility, and where they wouldn't have people represented there now. Because they just didn't exist in our police service in the same numbers, right?
Yeah.
So that is going to happen,
Yeah.
and it's made a tremendous
It's that
tremendous
journey
difference.
once again, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's great. It's great.
There's a black inspector.
Yes.
Dwayne.
Okay, that's, in terms of achievement, that's great, right? So,
Yeah, it is. It really is.
how it's sad that, not sad, but I think it needs to be showcased because of what's out there, what isn't, and he's not seen, and I didn't know that before.
I didn't know that either.
And I think, like I said, these are things that need to be showcased. That's one of the reasons when we came back with Community Connect, I called Deputy Chief and said, remember that female officer that you had? Can we, right, because Sergeant Pierre alluded to her when he was on as well. And I wanted to make sure to bring you here just because it showcases, and we want to
Diversity.
Yes, we want to showcase not only diversity and achievement.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So at that point, I'd like to put it to you. You're the person I'm going to ask. When can we get the inspector on?
That was my next question.
Well,
That was my next question for the next Community Connect. When can we?
Oh, I'm sure he'd be happy to come on. He actually has done an awful lot of visibility within our organization,
Awesome.
and involved in a number of recruiting
Awesome.
drives and things of that nature, and he's
It's
a very
good for
busy
the
man.
community to know that we have an inspector, right,
Absolutely.
of color.
Yeah.
So the young men and young women can see themselves in these spaces. And that's
Exactly.
what it's all about.
Yep.
So, and for 2 years, he was the inspector in charge of our uniform division of policing.
Oh.
So all frontline policing came up through him as the inspector in
Oh,
charge
awesome.
of that area.
Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. That's good.
And then on a personal note, you changed.
I have. You saying I've gained some weight? Is
I didn't
that
see
what you mean?
anything.
I've changed?
Oh,
What have I done, Colin?
You've changed positions.
Okay. All right.
Positions.
All right.
Yes, yes.
What prompted the change?
It's part of our natural progression as well,
Okay.
just to diversify the experience at the top end of the organization. So for the first 2.5 years, or 2 years, 2.5 years, I was on the administrative side of the organization, which oversaw human resources and the information technology, the money, that sort of thing, and the people. And
Gave up the money.
yeah.
Hold on, you gave up
That's
the money?
And I've had an opportunity to move over to the other side of the organization, and Deputy McIntyre is the other deputy, and
Yes.
so she and I switched roles,
Oh,
and it's
Awesome.
lots of fun.
So you gave up the money to go after those that might misappropriate the money.
I didn't see anything like that.
I think I did like Heather, and I got to go back to the frontline policing, right? You miss it, absolutely.
Okay. So I stand corrected then.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, they're is this the time where they're pointing at me? Don't worry, I knew they were pointing at me. I think you know what happens when they point at me. It means that we've come to our allotted time. Means that we're probably over, because there's all that kind of things that, and that's when I developed tunnel vision.
Time flies.
Yes, and I know other people have to go do homework and stuff, so I know that's the reason that they started to give me all the signs.
I can tell from looking.
Oh, definitely the homework. At this point, so I want to say thank you to everybody. It's a pleasure. And I also got to plug, once again, Harvest of Hope
Yes.
for the Educate the Children nonprofit, being led by Liz Acano. It's on October 22nd at the Fred Morrell Hall, which is located in St. Justin's Parish. Tickets are on sale at Eventbrite. I've put out an invitation to our colleagues or partners.
Your colleagues.
I want to say colleagues. Yeah,
He plays at Able and he becomes a colleague.
I'm trying to get it on the police service.
I'm noticing this. No, you're not going anywhere.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Okay, I take it. I stand corrected. Our partners.
There you
Right.
go.
Community partners.
Yes,
Community
yes,
partners.
yes.
I put an invitation out. I will send out. I'll send you the flyer, whatever. Please pass it on.
Sure.
It's for a great cause. The organization builds schools in rural Nigeria.
Yeah.
They're almost finished one school. They've been on it for a few years. I'm fortunate I've been the DJ for their event. It's had a 2-year interruption, obviously, because of COVID, so this is the first year back. So looking for all the support. Big shouts to all our sponsors once again. I start off with the W.E.A.N Community Centre. Thank you for allowing us as a company to exist and bring all these podcasts and stuff. Thank you for the police department for being here. Thanks to Rhythm Movements Community Association in Ottawa, Soul Kitchen Radio in Hamilton, Congress of Black Women, Pride London, Stephen and everybody, Paradise Bar and Grill, Angel Over the Fix, where we are going to be shooting our next Real Talk, Straight Talk. We're back shooting at the Fix. It's one of the locations we like to go to. What we try to do is shoot at Black businesses that can accommodate. So we want to be out in the community just like you. We're trying to be out in the community, so if they can accommodate us, we will show up there and we'll shoot an episode there. Once again, big shout to the Fix. And the Royal Bank, Natalie and everybody over at the Royal Bank. Thank you. And this has been another edition of Real Talk, Straight Talk.
Did you do Up Like 7?
Gotta talk about Up Like 7 because they had their community barbecue.
Yes, they did.
2 weeks ago, Sunday.
Yeah.
Actually, two weeks Sunday.
It was the Labor Day weekend, I think.
Labor Day. It was a great.
Even though it was raining, it was really good.
Fantastic turnout.
Yes.
They do it every year. It's a free barbecue. I think there was about 300-400 people.
Yeah.
They fed everybody.
Yeah.
There was
and great community sponsors too
Sean
for that.
Property Services, Capel Doors, I believe. I can't remember them all, but I remember Sean and Capel, and of course Up Like 7, and of course big shouts also to where we were on the weekend, the London Black History Coordinating Committee,
And the rock event that you did too. The rock event. Big shouts to Jimmy and all those guys. There was a festival this I'm his receptionist.
this Saturday. I didn't include it, but because this
It's
Saturday.
good. It's community,
and it was
right?
called Thames Valley
Rock.
Thames Valley Music Festival. It was on Saturday there.
And it was
South,
rock. It was good.
South in Wellington, and I think I'm also doing some stuff with what do they call Atlosa? Atlosa?
Yeah.
Yes, they're having an event drumming on the 30th of
September.
Yes,
Oh,
September
yeah.
30th.
Yep,
And
yep.
I believe, yes, we're involved there.
Truth and Reconciliation Day.
Yes.
So September 30th.
Now his juices are flowing.
Now my that's it. Nobody else. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome.
And these guys, I'm blaming it on you. They like to call it a fade to black. I know.
I love it.
I didn't want to say it was me. I know.
On the beat. on the beat.